English 373, week 3, part 8. All right, we're doing pretty good. Right now I'm in Act 3 of the play. Macbeth is never happy. He's never happy, even for an instant. He finds that he's going to be king, and is immediately stressed about having to kill the king, which nobody told him to do. Nobody said kill anybody, asshole. That was you. Nobody told you to do that. When the witches said you will be king, Macbeth heard, I'm gonna kill a king. All right, so it's all him, man. It's all him. He's the fucking problem. He is the problem. The people around him just encourage him to do shit that he was definitely already thinking about. And so he's stressed about killing the king, and then he becomes king, and then he's immediately like, Banquo, because he's got a problem. He's upset about Banquo, because Banquo, the witches said Macbeth would be king, awesome. But the witches said that Banquo's kids would be king. Now, the throne should probably, now it's a little confusing, by the way. There's a scene in the movie that confuses a lot of students. I totally understand. It is very confusing. The king announces that Malcolm will take the throne next, the king's son, and a lot of people are like, yeah, of course the king's son follows the king. In these days, that was not necessarily super obvious. The king can pick who he wants to come next. So he could have said, it's my son, but he also could have said, it's my best friend or my brother or whatever. That's what happens in Hamlet, is that when the king dies, the brother becomes king instead of the son. I know you guys are used to thinking about when the king dies, the king's son is the next king. But there are other systems. This is Scotland in 1200 is a little different from England, and 1600 is a little different from. So the king picked Malcolm to be the next king before he died. And then Malcolm ran off, leaving, and Macbeth took the throne because, whatever, Macbeth's awesome. He has some distant connection to the throne via his wife. It's not worth getting into the history bullshit of it. But if you think about it, how did Macbeth get to be king, even though he wasn't the next person in line? He fucking killed the king. Well, now Banquo's kids are the next person in line. I wonder how they're going to get to be king. They're going to probably kill Macbeth. I mean, he's really like, he killed somebody to get the throne, and it's obvious that somebody else, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but somebody's going to have to kill this motherfucker in order to take the throne. So he's really worried about Fleance. Fleance is Banquo's kid. And oh my god, the kid in the movie is so adorable. He's just got these big sticky out ears. He looks like a teapot. He's adorable. Love that little moppet. He's like a little nugget kid. Anyway, Fleance is Banquo's kid, and the witches said that the Banquo's children would be king. Macbeth doesn't like this, so he comes up with a really good plan. Fucking kill them all. Macbeth only has one way of solving problems. You got a problem? Oh, you have a problem? I'll murder the guy. That's what I'll do. Oh, are you having trouble with your accountant? I'll kill him. Oh, are you having trouble with your wife? I'd be happy to murder her for you. This is the guy has one solution to everything. There's a Greek saying that if all you have is a hammer, every problem is a nail. Macbeth, whatever the problem is, Macbeth's like, murder will fix it, right? And he gives a little speech about Banquo, and it's an interesting speech. He says, to be thus is nothing, but to be safely thus. Right? Meaning, I have the crown, I have the throne, but I'm not necessarily safe. Our fears in Banquo stick deep, and in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. 'Tis much he dares, and that dauntless temper of his mind hath a wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. Right? He's smart, and that's why we got to be careful. He hath a wisdom that doth guide his valor. So he's brave, but he's also smart, and that makes him dangerous. Banquo will be safe from him because Banquo's so clever. There is none but he whose being I do fear, and under him my genius is rebuked. I'm not doing that. That's a totally other mythology I'm not dealing with right now. He chid the sisters, meaning he wanted the sisters or the witches. He wanted the witches to talk to him. And so Macbeth is remembering that Banquo wanted the witches to pay attention to him. He chid the sisters and bade them, when they first put the name of king upon me, and bade them speak to him. Then prophet-like they hailed him father to a line of kings. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown. Why is his crown fruitless? Because he has no children. It's the idea that the tree is the father and the fruit is the children. And Macbeth has no children, and so he has a fruitless crown. And so he says of Banquo, then prophet-like they hailed him father to a line of kings, because they said Banquo's children would be king, meaning his son and his son's son and his son's son. They put a barren scepter in my grip, thence to be wrenched with an unlineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. Unlineal hand is interesting. So lineal means line. Unlineal means the line is broken. So the line from father to son got broken when Macbeth took over. But now Macbeth's line, because he has no children, is another line. Banquo's line is going to take over. An unlineal hand. Someone's going to wrench it over here and take over. He says, if it be so, meaning if Banquo's shitty kids are going to be king after me, if it be so, for Banquo's issue for his children, I have filed my mind, meaning I've defiled, I have ruined my mind for Banquo's stupid kids. For them, the gracious Duncan, have I murdered, put rancors in the vessel of my peace, meaning I've ruined my ability to relax. Only for them, and mine eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man. Macbeth has given his eternal jewel to the common enemy of man. His eternal jewel is his soul, and he has given his soul to the enemy of all mankind, Satan. Okay, cool. This is going really well. To make them kings, the seed of Banquo kings. So his plan is to just straight up murder Banquo. Now I have a clip of Ian McKellen doing this scene. And before I do that, I'm going to tell you something really stupid. They did a version of Macbeth that did not have any of Shakespeare's language. By the way, I love Shakespeare movies when they use Shakespeare's words. When it's just Shakespeare's plots, I don't like that, because Shakespeare didn't really come up with the story on his own. So if a movie just has Shakespeare's plots but none of his language, you're kind of missing the thing that makes Shakespeare Shakespeare. So I only consider it a Shakespeare adaptation if it's really got Shakespeare's words in it. But they did do a TV movie kind of version of Shakespeare's Macbeth starring James McAvoy as a guy in a restaurant who kills the restaurant owner so he can own the restaurant. The witches are 3 garbage men. It's ridiculous. It's not good. But what I have to show you next is that speech I just read you. I'm going to have Ian McKellen read it for you. And Ian McKellen was Magneto, and also. Shit, I think a long time ago I said that Patrick Stewart was Gandalf, but Ian McKellen was Gandalf. Anyway, I fucked that up. Patrick Stewart's from Star Trek. Whatever. Anyway, I fucked it up. The point is that I have Ian McKellen reading the speech to you. And I'm a huge X-Men fan. And so please take this moment to enjoy something that only I and maybe 1 or 2 other people in class will even enjoy. And that is, since James McAvoy played Macbeth as Macbeth happening in a restaurant, and Ian McKellen is about to read to you, he played Macbeth on stage in the 70s when he was really young. And he played Macbeth. And then Patrick Stewart played Macbeth. You saw him in the Dagger of the Mind speech. And then the movie version that I had you guys watch is Michael Fassbender as Macbeth. That means Macbeth has been played by old Professor Xavier, young Professor Xavier, old Magneto, and young Magneto. I can't tell you how happy that makes me. I fucking love it so much. So I will let you guys watch that clip next, and then I will come back and kind of talk about more serious things. I think hopefully I will reveal what I think is the big secret of the thing. Actually, let me look up something really quick. Oh, I don't have it on me. I'll get it in the next video.